meeting of the Midcoast Community Council for June 26, 2019.
And tomorrow.
Would council members introduce themselves, starting on my left, please?
Dan Haggerty.
Mark Powell. Michelle Weil.
Dave Olson.
Claire Touton.
And Barbara Mathewson.
And Len Erickson will not be here tonight.
I would like to pull agenda item 4C tonight. I ran out of time to prepare the data.
We don't vote on that, do we?
No need to.
Okay.
Unless somebody's going to protest.
Bye. Okay. Moving along, do we have a report from the Board of Supervisors, please?
Good evening, Midcoast Community Council. Good evening, Midcoast community residents. My name is Ellie Dahlman, and I'm here on behalf of San Mateo County Supervisor Don Horsley to provide a brief update. And most of the items, all of the items actually, are additional information requests that were made by your council at your last meeting in response to the presentation from the San Mateo County Parks Department. So the first is an updated timeline regarding the Quarry Park master planning effort that has been underway, and also a report back, I believe, on the amount budgeted by the Board of Supervisors for Parks' top 3 projects that are currently or soon to be underway. I'll start with Quarry Park master plan timeline. So the week of July 22nd, the Parks Department expects to hold a public meeting to share the draft master plan with the community. And so they will be coming out with more information in the next couple weeks to clarify the exact day, time, and location. But that meeting will take place, I assume, during the evening time, one of the weekdays that week in El Granada. And so after the draft is made public and comments are received from the public at that meeting, the department will revise the report and the draft master plan and come back to the Midcoast Community Council likely around the end of August of this year before the draft plan is brought before the Planning Commission, or in a more final form to the Planning Commission in October of this year, and then soon after that to the Board of Supervisors. And actually, excuse me, it's not the Planning Commission. It would come before the Parks Commission and then the Board of Supervisors in October of 2019 of this year. And then once the plan is kind of in final form and reviewed by all those various bodies, the next step will be to complete the environmental review process, which will take probably around 6 months to do. So they expect that to be completed summer of 2020. And the other item was a report back on the budgeted amount for Parks' top 3 projects. So the top 3 projects that were mentioned that the department is working on include the Coyote Point Eastern Promenade, which the Board of Supervisors recently appropriated $6.4 million to construct the Eastern Promenade project. The second project is called Reimagine Flood Park. It's about a 25-acre park in Menlo Park area, in a residential area, and they have appropriated approximately $15.3 million to prepare the designs and reconstruct Flood Park. And then the last one is in preparation for the 100th anniversary of the first county park, Memorial Park. The Board of Supervisors has appropriated $10 million to cover improvements such as water and wastewater improvements. That is a really significant overhaul, and actually I believe will require a closure for one season of the camping area because they will be doing full campground facility renovations, including bathrooms, showers, and completely replacing the wastewater treatment plant there. And that is all I have to report on today. I'd be happy to take any questions or comments from the council.
Thank you, Ellie.
Great, thank you.
I don't have any speaker slips. I don't know if anybody wanted to comment on something not on the agenda. If so, please let us know. Apparently not. I have only one announcement, which is that we still have openings on the CDRC. We really need an architect. If you know any architects that might be interested, and we're always needing someone from Miramar. We may have gotten one or two people approved today, but I will not jump the gun on that. We'll wait and see. There's been some interest. Barbara?
On July 2nd, I think it's next Tuesday, we're going to do an Adopt a Highway cleanup. Meet at 9 a.m. at the Lighthouse in Montera, and we're going to do that northern side of our stretch.
Do we know anything about our sign yet? It's still pending. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I am too.
Okay.
Just to double
anything
check,
else?
that was 9 a.m. July 2nd.
I believe it's it's next Tuesday. I think it's July 2nd. Is it July 2nd?
It is.
Any other announcements? Consent agenda consists of two things. One is the minutes for last meeting, and the other is some additions to the council work plan priorities list. Both of these were posted. So do I have a motion to approve?
Let's pull the council work priority plan. Item B.
You want that pulled?
Yeah, I don't know, I didn't catch it. I don't know why it's there.
Okay. So we'll put that as the last item on the regular agenda.
Okay.
I'll
So-
make a motion to approve the minutes of June 12th.
All in favor? 6-0. Okay, moving along. The first item on the regular agenda is a letter regarding the proposed apartments on Etheldore and Moss Beach. I think there is a visual presentation that goes with that, and there's also a letter which is attached to the agenda. What? Okay.
Water bottle.
Okay, so what we're talking about is the area with the yellow line around it, which is bounded by Carlos, California, and Etheldore in Moss Beach, and is labeled as PUD 121. And it is, there is a proposal, which we'll describe here in a minute, to build 2 apartment buildings behind the existing commercial building right here.
Wow.
So there'd be 2 3-level buildings with 8 townhouse units total. And you can see here's the existing building, and it's on a slope, so it may look a little more imposing than it is, but that's what it looks like. There will be parking spaces on the first level. The townhouse apartments are on the second and third levels. You can see here the parking structures underneath the actual dwelling units. One thing I wasn't sure about was the existing 16 space parking for the commercial building, whether that would be replaced by the development or not. Perhaps somebody can clarify that as we go along. Could you, please?
So the existing parking that's behind the commercial building, will be shared with the commercial use and visitors to the apartments. The residents of the apartments would be in that upper level. Their parking would be up above.
So there'd be 15 total parking spaces, including
The existing 16 spaces would stay there, but
Okay.
the people that are visiting the apartments could also park there.
Okay, that helps, thank you. Okay. Next page. So some of our concerns about this relate to the fact that this was zoned a long time ago. You can see the basic zoning delineations on the map to the right, purple being neighborhood commercial and blue being single-family residential. And the parcel that we're talking about is this one here, which is a PUD. And the problem here, at least one of our concerns, is that the PUD 121 zoning was created in 1973. So it's 40 years old or so, and not been updated. So this was created before the Coastal Act and before the LCP. So the requirements of this zoning are really very different from what they would be if it were zoned today. It allows for a 36-foot maximum building height, whereas we basically accept 28 feet now. It allows for up to 2,400 square feet of commercial, which is not what's being built. It allows for up to 10 units of multifamily residential, which the 8 units is well under that. And only the commercial building, the one that we pointed out before, was built in 1975, so the rest of the PUD has been undeveloped since 1973. So, as I said, the current standards are a 20-foot maximum height, and also the residential use in the neighborhood commercial district is limited to above the first floor, and the floor area should not exceed that of the commercial use unless the units are designated as affordable units with income and rent restrictions. So this does not seem to jive with the old zoning regulations, because you can see the number of square feet for the proposed residential is much higher than the existing commercial surface area. So this is just to give you a sense of scale, a sense of what's already there. On the top picture, you see the post office and the, what do they call that now, the wine room. And moving down the street, you go to the Moss Beach Professional Center, which I always like, and then to the existing commercial building. And then moving down beyond that is Sheriff and the grocery store. So you kind of get a scale of what's there already. So our proposed comments in the letter that we wrote today are 4 points. One, that this major development would benefit from a public pre-application workshop, which we have requested and has been acknowledged, and we have offered to host it. Nothing has been arranged yet, but it has been requested and acknowledged. Secondly, a hearing level CDP should be required rather than a staff level as proposed currently in the project designation. So we'd like a little more attention paid to this than simply a staff report. Thirdly, the PUD 121 zoning for this parcel should be updated for consistency with current Midcoast development standards, including building height and residential use limitations in neighborhood commercial areas. This is an important part. And then lastly, the height and mass of the proposed buildings are completely out of scale with the existing development in the area. I think that's it. So, are there any questions technically from the council? Any clarification that's needed?
Yeah, so the PUD supersedes the 28 feet limit? Is that what I'm hearing?
The current PUD 121 does not require, it doesn't require a 28-foot limit. The current building standards on the coast do.
So which takes precedence?
Well, I guess that's one of the reasons we would like to have it discussed.
The planned unit development, or whatever that is, the PUD, is a separate zoning district, just for that parcel. And, you know, it's set up like the Mid-Penn thing. It was originally set up for a specific project, and zoning was all set up to accommodate something that people thought was valuable at the time, and in '73, this seemed like a good idea. When they actually came in for the building permit, however, they only had the commercial, and then there was like, I think, 4 units of housing, but then they decided not to build the housing, and then that's how it has stayed. In the meantime, the world has moved on, and this hasn't been looked at. It wasn't looked at with the LCP update in 2012, and there it is now. So unless something's changed, yeah, they can build to 36 feet and have 10 units. Unless the county says, hold on here, this is way out of date.
Thank you.
So I had a question. My understanding of PUDs is that a plan for the entire parcel needs to be submitted at the time, and that was done at the time. So isn't this a significant revision of the initial permit? Does that have any effect?
Can you address that?
Well, if you happen to know.
The notes on Excella by the planning staff about this seem to say, well, yeah, I don't know. I think, you know, if nobody objects, maybe they'll just approve it. So this is your opportunity to comment if you think a different path is more appropriate.
Okay. So we might want to consider requesting that they stay with the originally approved project for the PUD.
Well, we can talk about that. I want to make sure we get community comments.
No, I know. I just wanted
Yeah.
to raise that as a potential issue.
I think I forwarded the comments from Excella there where they were saying since the CDP or the building permit or whatever for the smaller number of housing was so long ago and wasn't built, it had expired, so they didn't even need to consider that. I think that sort of might just muddy the issue. You know, it's...
I just wasn't sure what the county's historical thing was on a PUD that hasn't changed.
I don't know if the commercial building is owned by the same people that own the...
It's one parcel, it's owned by something
Same person.
LLC,
Okay.
yes.
One clarification question. Are there any proposed changes to the existing building, or is that just staying exactly the same?
Not to my knowledge.
Only to the parking.
Right.
Hey,
So,
are there-
one other thing. So, design review,
That would happen too.
yeah. My first look at it is, you know, it's completely out of scale and just horribly ugly. And so I thought the design review is going to have a lot to say. Obviously, it's just too big, and it just, nothing flows. It's just an eyesore. Just a horrible, just, it would be a disaster if that was built like it's drawn.
I'd like to open it up to the community for comments. I don't have any speaker slips. Are there some out there?
They're out there, nobody wanted
You
it.
want anybody? Yeah, please.
Write it up.
It's really out of scale.
We do have a letter written to the council from Resist Density, generally agreeing with the letter that we're proposing, but with a few additional comments. I don't know if you are planning to emphasize those comments?
Well, yes, and more.
Okay, good.
These PUDs are rather confusing to us, and looks like they are for everybody. But there's an additional issue. I mean, we agree with the MCC, and we really hope that it does get a hearing and it does have the proper review and conforms to the current LCP standards. But the additional view that we had is that that impact on that intersection is like tremendous. You know, that's where there's either going to be a signal or a roundabout, and I mean, it's already going to be clogged. And that just to me stands out like a major sore thumb. I think Moss Beach is going to be really needing to have a better traffic plan, and I don't know, when is a traffic management study required? I thought it was a certain number of units. I mean, would it apply here? Does anybody know? No? Anyway, we wouldn't oppose a more reasonable approach, but this seems really out of scale, and we're very concerned about the cumulative traffic impacts. And we very much support the MCC letter and hope that we can get this to the community to have input from them. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes.
Okay. You want to hand that over here? Oh, you can pass it on that way.
I'll pass it.
Pass it on.
So I wanted to know if this size and scope is approved, will this open the door for other building, like in Montera? You know, that somebody comes in and wants, let's say, to have a building the same size as the, what is it called now, the Coast Side Inn, the old Montera bed and breakfast.
Well, the zoning...
Would this open the door, though?
It would open the door in the sense of there would be more buildings of higher scale than there are now, but it would not open the door in the sense that the zoning on this property is unique and would not apply to other surrounding properties.
But so is the property in Montera, the inn is unique also, it's...
But it's not a
No.
PUD zone.
Okay, so, all right, that was my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Marcia Yates, Moss Beach. And I just want to remind everybody that this is not just an 8-unit apartment building. It's an 8-unit apartment building on top of Big Wave, which is 1,500 trips daily, on top of the mixed-use development that is being proposed by the Chevron, next to the Chevron gas station, and of course the Mid-Penn project, which they've underestimated the traffic impact on Moss Beach by over 400 car trips. So we just have to remember that, you know, this is a whole cumulative effect of just along a short distance along Highway 1. So we really want to see that this townhouse project comes up to the current building regulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I want to make sure we get everybody from the community that wants to speak at the moment. Okay, let's open it up to the council then.
I was just wondering, as far as what kind of units there are, 1, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, like is there an estimate of expected occupancy?
I haven't seen that. Has anybody else seen that?
It's on the plans.
Sorry. Can we repeat it?
Is Mr. Love here?
Yes,
Maybe you would know.
2 bedrooms per unit.
Okay, thank you. Any comment, any discussion from the council?
Well, I have a comment, which is that if you look at the massing from the street, from Carlos, looking up the hill, the massing is just going to be truly offensive to me, but it's a huge mass when you look at it from Carlos. I also am a little concerned about what's going to happen. California Avenue is the main access in and out of the site of Moss Beach. And it's also the proposed main use for the traffic in and out of the Cypress Point project.
Plus the Marine Reserve.
Well, that's on the other side. But if you have people coming into this from Highway 1 and turning left, you're going to have a lot of cross traffic here. So that traffic safety issue concerns me a lot, particularly with those trees there. If those trees grow, visibility of those driveways from the street is going to be very, very bad. So those, in my opinion, those trees have to go. There can't be anything but low bushes there, very low bushes.
Adding to what you're saying, if I may, coming into this intersection here with Carlos Street, that's just wide open. People go at all different angles all through that without any control. Well, he's been.
Can I point out another thing? Did you go to the slide that shows the cross-section? Okay, so you're standing at the corner there, and on the right of the photo at the top, that's on the same kind of a slope. But the side towards Etheldorf presents as one story. Whereas this will present, is proposed to present 2 stories plus additional gables, plus it looks like the grade is raised a little bit there from the street. So quite a different scale from even the building next door.
Does the same property owner own the whole block?
The whole PUD apparently.
Yeah, it's a single lot, so it's a single owner.
There's quite a slope on that street.
This line here, I believe, is existing grade. No positive, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Well, the line up at the top says 36 feet above the existing grade. The buildings are not quite to that, but they're, look to be within a couple feet of it. For me, it's huge, it's so tall, and I think it's completely different from the existing character of Moss Beach. I kind of wonder if, of course, the units need parking, but raising it a whole floor for parking is making these units appear so much larger than the actual residential area. To me, it needs to just be rethought.
What we're actually considering here today is approving the letter. So at some point, hopefully we'll have a pre-app workshop here where we can go into detail about all of these things. And I think it would be fine for people to bring anything else up that you want to say about this. But the main thing that we have on the agenda today is to approve or disapprove of the letter. So we might want to take a look at that.
You want to bring up the letter itself?
Oh, that'd be great if you had it. Although the proposed comments pretty much encapsulate it.
Oops, that's the wrong one.
There's copies of the letter out there, right?
Yes, there is.
Yeah, okay, so if people wanted to grab one, they could.
I do have a clarification question while we're pulling that up. Who decides whether to have a pre-application workshop? Is
The Planning Commission, I believe. That's who we requested it from.
and we
Not the
could.
planning commission.
It's not.
It would be the director, Steve Monowitz.
Oh, okay.
And so we need his approval in order to have that, essentially? Is that right?
I believe so.
Yeah, we would need his approval in order to hold that workshop. And
Yeah, technically, they don't have to have one that's less than 10 units. But we had one for Valmar Bluff, which was less than that, and there was another one up on Pillar Point Bluff, which was only 3 houses, and they had a pre-application for that.
Okay.
So there's precedent for that.
And were you actually implying, could we just have one without us?
I was just curious how the process worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
I don't believe
mean,
we could do that.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're doing pretty much the same here now. You don't have, I assume that the applicant could make a presentation if he wanted to tonight. You don't have at the pre-application workshop, you would have the county staff planner at the meeting, and he would be taking notes, and then he would produce a report summarizing all the comments from the different agencies as well as the public. So,
Well, we will have minutes documenting
there you
this.
go.
Yeah. Can I get a motion to approve the letter, and then we can discuss it?
I'll make a motion that we approve the letter to, what's this, to Renee Anata.
Okay, second? It's open for discussion.
On your presentation, you had the 4 comments, the proposed comments.
Uh-huh.
And on your letter, you have 3, and then the last one you have, and the last concern, the height and mass of the proposed building
Right.
is in bold. Is there a reason why you're not making that a bullet point that sticks out even?
My thought on that was that the first 3 were more or less related to legal terminology, zoning things, and this was more of a aesthetic point. No discussion? Should we call for?
I think we should add something about that it completely unfits with the character of the area.
I think that's what she's trying to say.
Height and mass.
Do you have a suggestion of stronger wording?
More than just height and mass.
What else would you want to say?
That it just doesn't fit with the character of the community.
But what would make it not be in the character of the community besides height and mass?
Just the style, the design, aesthetics of the whole project.
I feel like that's so subjective, and that might weaken the point of it when height and mass are.
It looks like an apartment building that would be in Daly City on a mountain way up out of sight.
We don't have
With these.
a formal design, I don't think. This is a rough drawing, as I understand it. The actual
Okay,
design will come up.
If you don't want to add the character part, then
It's up to the group.
Is there room to add anything about the issue of traffic?
Should be.
Anything can be added.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's
It does.
worth adding a sentence or 2 about left turns into this could be a safety issue with all the traffic.
Is the only entrance to this going to be on California?
Yes,
No entrance on Etheldor?
that's the way it's drawn currently.
It says the frontage is on Etheldor, the pedestrian entrance is on Etheldor, but the driveways to the garages are on California.
I believe that its proximity to that intersection certainly should supersede any other rules that just should demand a traffic impact report.
So be thinking
Basically.
about how to amend this. If you want to offer amendments please put them together and we'll vote on them.
One other thing that you may want to consider as well, when the apartments were built over here on Portola, the applicant planned to put in an affordable unit. And while this is not a large enough development to require affordable units, I think we might want to request an affordable unit in this.
Are these going to be sold or rented, do you know?
I don't know.
Currently, it's described as apartments.
Apartments, yeah.
What does the rest of the council think about requesting an affordable unit?
I think we could request it.
Yeah. I think it's a good idea.
I'll agree to that.
So it sounds like we've had a few suggestions about rewording, one being about character of the community, one being about traffic, one being about affordability. I don't know, there may be other things that people want to consider for this letter, but if you want any of those, please put them in the form of an amendment so that we can decide whether to include them.
You want to go first, Dan, since you brought yours up first?
May I again?
Yes.
A couple things to keep in mind. And the MCC has always made an effort to let CDRC do their thing and not try and duplicate their effort. This will come to the Coastside Design Review. Also, that this is not the only time you can comment. This is just the early referral. And your requests seem to be related to the process and basically the need to revisit the zoning. And so either they will revisit the zoning or not, and then at that point you might want to say, for example, if they do revisit it, then you would have these comments in about at that time. Mm-hmm. If they say, no, we're not going to revisit it, then you can, at that point, you can't really ask for an affordable unit because it's locked in. I mean, you kind of need to have the answers to the first 3 bullets before you know what other comments you might make, I would think.
Well, that's sort of my concern. That's why I was thinking the affordable unit and the traffic safety are worth mentioning now.
Is your point, Lisa, that you want to keep it clean so they know exactly what we're addressing and not just everything?
The key piece is the PUD 121. You don't want to clutter it up to, in my opinion, that needs to be revisited. Otherwise,
it's all moot.
Yeah, and basically, if you're asking for the pre-app and you're asking for CDP public hearing and you're asking to have their zoning revised, then when they do that, that's the time to submit your comments on the details of those changes.
Yeah, I agree, but I don't think it can hurt to put in a couple of extra sentences about issues, just in case they don't do that. I wouldn't make it the focus of the letter.
If they choose not to have a pre-application workshop, is this going to be the end of us dealing with it tonight?
We will still get a referral.
Okay.
This has come up in the past about sometimes when the MCC has not been able to get their comments on the referral in before the date it's requested, and we have been told that the MCC may comment as often as they like. And up until this comes to a public hearing, there's a staff report, and that would sort of be your last opportunity. But you could have this on your agenda every month if you want. Free to do, what you like. We're not constrained like the other agencies where they ask for comments and stuff. That's what we've been told in the past.
So do I hear any further
I'd like to move to make an amendment to add, due to the proximity to a very busy and dangerous Highway 1 intersection The MCC believes a traffic impact report should be required.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Do we want a traffic impact? Do we want to discuss, do we want to request a formal impact report, or do we just want to draw their attention to the fact that this is going to be an issue? I'm not sure the implications of requesting a formal investigation are.
I think it should be on record. I think it's pretty clear.
Yeah, I don't know I don't think there's a mechanism other than a formal, so
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I don't know one.
That part can be discussed with them.
Okay. Where would you insert that, Dan?
Make a fourth bullet.
I think I'd rather put it down a little bit lower, because to keep the focus on those three
That's what you're gonna-
zoning considerations separate.
I don't know, I
Well-
think a fourth bullet is appropriate.
We're making a
the-
comment. We're making a comment. These are comments after a sentence that's talking about that we're making comments.
Okay.
The 2 or 3 paragraphs below the third bullet are supporting the third bullet. So I would recommend maybe putting it between the second and the third existing bullet.
Okay, makes sense.
Like here?
Yeah.
Should we vote on that? Should we vote on that?
Yeah, are we ready to vote on Dan's wording inserted between the second and third bullet point? Okay. All in favor of doing so? Okay, 5-6-0. And do you have the wording on that?
I will get it from the video.
Okay.
I can't take minutes when this is being displayed.
Are there any other amendments that you want to make to this letter? If not, we can vote on the letter as a whole as amended. And I think it's already on the table. So all in favor of the letter as amended? Passes 6-0. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is support for a grant for construction of the parallel trail, and Ellie Dahlman will present material on this. You have her video.
All right, good evening again, Midcoast Community Council and Midcoast residents. I'm here to present an item requesting support from the Midcoast Community Council for a grant application for the construction phase of the parallel trail. And I'm not sure, I think this might not be the right slideshow. This is the same project, but a previous slideshow there, no problem. So is anybody familiar with the Parallel Trail project? I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about it before, but the project proposes to construct just under 1 mile of new bicycle and pedestrian trail that will be 12 feet wide directly east of Highway 1, located within Caltrans right-of-way, and the trail is proposed to start east of Highway 1, right where the City of Half Moon Bay border ends. I believe it's Murata Road there by Arroyo del Medio Creek, and the trail is proposed to stretch north all the way to the Coronado intersection, just past El Granada Elementary School. So here is an image, the red is the trail there. And I mentioned it would be, what's proposed is a 12-foot wide trail, which would consist of 8-foot wide asphalt, similar to Murata West, the Coastal Trail, and Naomi Patridge Trail. And this trail will also include a 2-foot shoulder on either side of decomposed granite as well. And once complete, the project will become a component of the larger California Coastal Trail, as well as the Parallel Trail, which is, this is phase 1 of what is imagined to be a bike and ped trail that would run east of Highway 1 north, I believe, all the way to Montera. And so if you go to the next slide, it's just a brief overview of what the purpose of my presentation, which is to request a letter of support from your council for the City-County Association of Governments Article 3 Transportation Development Act grant application. You may recall we came to your council, I think it was a couple years back, requesting this exact same letter of support for this exact same funding pot. Unfortunately, this project was not selected previously, so we're going for it again in this round of call for application. So I just started giving you a brief project description. Was going to take a moment to review some of the regional trail connections, which you're all probably very familiar with, but for anybody who's in the audience or watching on TV. And then also reminder, which you all probably know better than I, project need, and then I'll review the community support that we've received to date. So the proposed trail shown in yellow on this map will close a key gap in the active transportation trail network on the unincorporated coast side. It will provide continuous regional bicycle and pedestrian trail for commuters, residents, students, visitors, providing safe access to neighboring communities, town centers, and recreational destinations without having to drive or travel, walk, or bike on Highway 1. As you can see, south of Coronado Street, where that white line crosses Highway 1, there are no safe crossings across Highway 1 for residents who live east of the highway. Allowing them to access the existing coastal trail, which is blue, and that runs mostly along the coast side there. So this new parallel trail that's drawn there in yellow will provide an alternative means of transportation in an effort to mitigate highway congestion and hopefully to make the healthy choice of biking or walking the easy choice, whether you live east of Highway 1 or west of Highway 1. And then at the southern end, you see a dotted line continues. That is the Naomi Patridge Trail that the city of Half Moon Bay, they have a small section, the dotted line, that they are in the process of designing to complete that direct connection to the existing Naomi Patridge Trail that you see ends just almost at the bottom right-hand side of the screen there. And I believe they are also going after, if I'm not mistaken, they'll be submitting an application for this funding source, I believe, for that trail segment as well. And just we'll go back really quickly. At the northern end of the trail, there's a direct connection to El Granada Elementary School, where you see kind of like a trail spur up there in order to ensure that the trail users that the slope is ADA compliant. That's kind of part of the reason for the gradual approach up to the school versus just having a direct perpendicular line that would connect to the school. So we've been in close coordination with Cabrillo Unified School District and El Granada Elementary School. And so they're very excited about the trail and the opportunity that it brings when it comes to safe routes to school, both for El Granada and ultimately with the connection to Naomi Patridge Trail all the way to other schools in the city of Half Moon Bay. And I just included to review things that you've already seen, some of the project design elements. While this trail segment will not intersect directly with Highway 1 or cross Highway 1, there are side streets and driveways that butt up to Highway 1 that the trail will cross. And so what the design team has proposed in order to ensure the safest trail possible, it's proposed to install raised crosswalks, which are sort of similar to a speed bump, but much wider and kind of a more gradual approach as a way to warn vehicles, hey, you need to slow down because there's going to be people walking and or biking in this area. There will also be signage that's shown here. The top right is just an image of a raised crosswalk in another community there. And then the drawing is actually from the designs for this project. And then there's also, I believe, proposed pedestrian level lighting only where the trail crosses roadways, just again, to bring awareness to the trail users that it's changing, that they're going to be potentially interacting with vehicles, also for the vehicles to bring awareness to them. And you'll also notice the trail kind of curves as, and this image may not be large enough for you to see, but another element in the design is rather than having the trail continue straight across a roadway, the trail kind of meanders or it curves as you approach a intersection. Again, bringing awareness to the trail users, especially if you're a cyclist and coming in, really quickly, by forcing them to turn a little bit will help to slow them down to ensure that there's a safe or no direct interaction with any vehicles that might be traveling through there. Great. Next slide is just reiterating the project needs. So as you all may recall, the need for this project was identified through an intensive community-based planning process conducted 10 years ago, June 2009, that focused on transportation improvements, strategies for Highway 1, and that's the Highway 1 Safety and Mobility Improvement Study that's shown in blue on there. Also, I included some images. The photo on the top right is an image of the existing kind of pathway that people have created through the Arroyo de En Medio Creek. That this trail we propose to install a prefabricated bridge that would run across the creek. So that would, I guess the image just simply underlines the need for this trail, that people are already seeking for a safe way off of the highway, off of the shoulder of the highway to walk through this area. So a bridge will be installed across the creek. And then the picture on the bottom, actually, when I was driving over here, I saw that there's still a memorial there for a cyclist that was killed on Highway 1 back, that was in 2017, I believe. So again, just, obviously, there will still probably be cyclists, even when this trail is built, that will choose to take Highway 1, but at least by providing an option that is completely separated from the highway through this parallel trail project, will help to make biking and walking safer for all users. Because the project will remove pedestrians and cyclists from the roadway where there's currently no sidewalk, no formal bike lane, and it will reduce the need for cyclists and pedestrians to cross the roadway to get to the coastal trail, which is today's option to travel north and south by foot or bike. So yeah, and community support received to date, we so far again have received letters of support for this grant application from the Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition, from the San Mateo County Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee, which I presented before them, I believe it was last week, and they're very supportive of the project again this round, and Cabrillo Unified School District has also given us a letter of support. And the next slide will show the remaining anticipated community support we hope to get, again, from the Midcoast Community Council, and I've also reached out to the Coastside Mothers Club as well as the PTO, parent-teacher organizations through the school district, just to present the best case possible with showing all the community support to hopefully get us enough points to secure the $400,000 of funding, which is the maximum amount that you can request for construction through this grant application process. It is a local funding source, so we'll only be competing against other agencies within San Mateo County versus some of the other grant applications that we submitted more recently. We were competing statewide with all projects from all over the state, including a number of disadvantaged communities, which fortunately, this area is not. We didn't we weren't able to receive the points for those grant applications because we're not considered a disadvantaged community, so that was, made it very difficult for us to score enough points to secure the other funding sources. Anyways, so that's pretty much all I have to share at this time. In terms of the status of the project, we are actually this week just finalizing. We had to change the bridge, where the bridge that runs through Arroyo de Medio Creek, due to the new SAM sewer force main that was installed. Unfortunately, where the plans showed it would be installed was not the location that it was installed, so we just want to make sure that our bridge abutments for that bridge that have to go pretty deep into the ground are not in conflict with any existing utilities, including the new sewer line and the old sewer line that I believe may still be there. So we did some additional surveying and potholing that showed us exactly where those are, and had to make some adjustments with the positioning of the bridge such that it provides sufficient clearance for those utilities. And we're waiting for sign off from the various utility agencies before we're able to finalize 100% designs and submit those to Caltrans for their sign off, since this project is located in Caltrans right away, except for a small portion where it runs up to the school. That is technically on school property. So, you know, we will complete the design phase before the end of this calendar year. I believe the CEQA document was already circulated, so we're you know, on the right track when it comes to permitting. We also submitted a couple other permits for the stream bed alteration permit and one other, so we're just waiting to hear back on those. But this project is, you know, 95%, 99% funded for the construction phase, thanks to Supervisor Horsley's, you know, really prioritizing this project. And most of the funding is coming from the county, and it's local funding, which is supplementing the Transportation Authority grant we received a while back to kick off the design phase for the project. But so this additional $400,000 will bring us to that fully funded construction phase, which we are working with Public Works Department, who will oversee construction, and they will begin that process next year.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm glad that you're staying on top of this, because we're all eagerly awaiting it to be completed.
Yeah.
Quick question. I think, is the Naomi Patridge Trail on the east side or the west side? I thought it was on the west side.
As I understand
Both?
Is it both?
Yeah. Okay.
All right, the connecting
I think it
part
might
is on the east side.
cross the highway at another intersection potentially.
Oh, at Frenchman's
The
Creek.
west side stops much further south.
Okay, that just a little confused.
Yeah, and
Thank
as
you.
I understand, the city of Half Moon Bay actually has plans, the community has identified bike and pedestrian trails on both sides of Highway 1 as top priorities. So I've seen a number of grant applications and been in communication with them for bicycle and pedestrian trails south of the city of Half Moon Bay, running on both sides of, both north and south of the city, running on east and west sides of Highway 1. Because I think they have similar challenges that we do here in the Midcoast is, you know, when there are no safe crossings across Highway 1, if I live on, you know, on the west side, but the trail's on the east side, I have no way to get there without scampering across 2 lanes of what can be very quick, very fast, 50 plus miles an hour oncoming traffic.
Are there any clarifying questions for Ellie?
Okay. Last meeting, we had the interim, the Parks Director here, who told us that there were no plans to do any more trails over here until they were all prioritized to the Bayside. Is this not connected to those other trails, or how are?
Yeah, this isn't the parks, she meant parks projects.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
what I wasn't clear on.
This trail is not, so as you probably know, it's not proposed on Parks managed land. The Parks Department has been involved through the design phase because it's anticipated that the Parks Department will assume the maintenance responsibilities for this facility. So we want to make sure that, that that it's accessible for, whatever their maintenance needs might be. So this project has really been something that Supervisor Horsley has prioritized, and it's been a cross-department effort between planning and building, who's overseen the contract for the design phase, and of course completed the environmental work, and then Public Works, who's really been the engineer experts that have gotten us where we are now as well.
So if this grant is approved, is there no time limit as to when it has to be completed or started?
There is, and I don't know off the top of my head, but I know because we are so far or so near completion of the design phase, that won't be an issue for us. We're already on Public Works capital project list, so they're already anticipating that as of January 1, they will have the completed designs, and they'll be able to begin their process to request bids from contractors to complete the work, because that's a whole process that takes a number of months as well before we can even get a shovel in the ground.
Thanks, Ellen.
Yeah.
One other question on the design. So is it just a single path for bikes and pedestrians with just central lines down the middle? Is there any segregation of types of?
I know that there's a center line, kind of dividing the trail in half for who's traveling north, who's traveling south.
Yeah.
I don't believe there's any additional separation. Maybe it's probably very similar to like Crystal Springs Sawyer Camp Trail, where it has the kind of shoulder on either side and then the shared paved trail. Okay. I'm not sure off the top of my head exactly how wide that is, but
About the same.
yeah.
I saw the Devil's Slide Trail with new eyes last week, and that's very nicely designed.
Yes.
Because it has the separate place for pedestrians and then the 2 lanes for bicycles.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like it would solve a lot of problems.
Yeah. With the width of this, it doesn't seem like there's enough room for both. I'm not sure, but it might be useful to have some signage, or just, I know that in one of the images it showed a picture of a bicyclist and a pedestrian, and sometimes you'll see like kind of just painting on the actual ground that kind of indicates that this is a shared trail, so that both pedestrians and bicyclists can feel comfortable using it.
Yeah, I'd be happy to bring that feedback back to the design team to see kind of what best practices there are in terms of just ensuring people understand it's a shared pathway. Absolutely.
Sounds good.
Tamara?
Yeah, I was just curious if this would provide a potential alternative for like events in the area that utilize Highway 1, like the triathlon that had a big section where people had a bike and it had the potential to affect traffic. So I don't know if that's something that is possible for the future.
I would imagine that would be possible, though I'm not sure, depending on the size of the event, if this 8-foot wide asphalt would accommodate their needs, whereas I don't know if they closed the whole highway or half of it, which would probably be.
Had people monitoring and directing turns.
Yeah.
I can comment. I've done the Seattle to Portland ride several times, and the stretch through Fort Lewis is a trail very similar to this.
Yeah.
And they run several thousand people through it. So yes, it's possible.
And I'm also.
Whether they would want to is a different question.
I'm also guessing because it's Caltrans state right-of-way, it would likely require consideration by them to be able to say whether or not that would be something that could happen. But I'd be happy to ask that question just to kind of, so that we know ahead of time.
That'd be good, thank you. Dan, did you have something?
Yes. Thank you for the presentation, Ellie. You and I have talked about my concern, and I've spoken in this room about my concern with the speed bumps. Was the design team, Supervisor Horsley, able to discuss any of that?
So I know your concern was this, that oncoming traffic would have to significantly slow down in order to make it over the speed bump. Was that your primary concern?
Well, there's a bunch, there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
That's one of them.
Well, most of where the trail intersects with the roadway, it's very close to where the roadway also will intersect with Highway 1. So traffic should already be traveling pretty slow as they're either coming off.
So how far away from the highway will the
speed bumps be? I believe the distance varies, and I know I have that in my notes. I don't know off the top of my head the exact distance between where the trail crossing and the Highway 1 intersection, but I can get that to you in an email.
They show the stop sign at Madio here in the lower.
So let me go further on my concerns about the speed bumps and the overall impact. First of all, I want to say, I am clearly in favor of the concept of the trail. I think we can make it better. I think we all must realize that as this trail gets more and more connected to what will now be El Granada, what's our population? 5,000? So we're going to see a great upkick. This is what I believe. We're going to see a great upkick now in the use of it. Not only from just what we started out to think was just be, people riding 10 speeds and beach cruisers, but now we're going to be seeing people using this trail with, electric bikes. There's gasoline-powered bikes out there, electric skateboards, and they all have a different rate of travel speed. And they're all going to be competing with cars. So I think this, can you blow it back out to where?
Okay, I just want, before I do that, I wanted to show everybody, so there's a 10-foot apron here with a 2% grade. This is nothing like what most people think of speed bumps. And on the center part, it's a 1% grade. So it's extremely shallow grade over a
Large.
28-foot distance.
So let me finish about what I believe is the impact. So regardless, I still think it's going to impact cars leaving. The situation is that, under the peak times when the highway is really busy, cars will be lining up. They're going to be competing, waiting, minutes and minutes to get out onto the road. So they're going to be competing with line of sight. They're going to naturally inch forward to get their line of sight. On one hand, you could say, well, intuitively, people are going to stay away from, park in the middle of the intersection, crosswalk, and I say that they will. They will be doing that.
Well,
So-
and also, you'll see that there's the kind of the triangles there in the top right photo that hopefully will, in addition to the painted crosswalk, that will warn drivers that, hey,
So-
stop here before you get to
So in the situation,
stopping right in the middle of the
when
crosswalk.
you have 3 cars parked waiting to get in, and now they're blocking the intersection, I think it would be a better idea to have a wider space, more room for these people on the trail to work their way around, instead of funneling into I think that's problematic to funnel into a tight area and then have to maneuver over these ramps.
Well, and the
speed bumps.
grade, there won't be a speed bump for the trail users. The trail will stay.
I understand that.
The same height. And so if say there is, the tail of a vehicle because it's waiting to get onto Highway 1, if the tail is maybe blocking half of the crosswalk, the cyclist could go kind of outside of the crosswalk, because it's such a very low grade over 10-foot apron, it's not going to be, the trail user won't necessarily be limited to just crossing on the painted crosswalk, if that makes sense.
Well, that's what the feel is. Hold on.
So there's one really important point to that. This has to stay within the Caltrans right-of-way.
So,
You can't move it back very far.
whether or not they can, when the users of the trail will more likely try to get closer and try to stay within those boundaries. I understand what you're saying.
Right.
They can go out of the boundaries.
Well, hopefully they'll
But by
stay-
having the
yeah.
boundaries there, they're going to be more likely to go in, stay in the boundaries.
Which
What
is
I'm
a good thing,
requesting-
hopefully, because
what I'm
that will
requesting
keep
is-
them safe from,
Have-
that the vehicles will expect them to be in the boundaries of the crosswalk.
You were beginning to say what I'm requesting. Can you put that into like a sentence and then we need to move on because we're basically discussing the letter.
Well, I wanted to mention that, also, we really need to be looking at pedestrian underpasses to solve these problems. These users of this trail, they're going to cross wherever they want to.
Well, and they're not crossing
And so-
Highway 1, they're crossing
I
side
understand.
streets.
No, they will cross Highway 1 at times. Some of them will.
And the hope is by
Yeah,
building a
and-
trail east of the highway, they won't have to cross the highway
I
in
understand
order
the
to
concept.
travel
I'm
north
just
and
saying, in
south.
reality,
Right, people are gonna do whatever they want.
yes, yes.
I'd like to get some feedback from the community. I think the council's taking enough time. Are there comments from the community on the letter? Sure.
Another question about the decomposed granite, the color.
Well, this project, of course, as I've said before when it's been discussed, isn't 10 years old. It's close to 30. And some of us, there were a number of us on the coast side, as the highway started to get more and more plugged up, started suggesting an alternative parallel trail to Highway 1. And for those of us who live here, to get from place to place on the coast side without having to get onto the highway by alternative means, and also to serve the schools. And it's really good to see in this segment, a very definite part of the plan is to access the school in El Granada. And once we get up to Montera with the trail, we'll be looking for the same sort of attention to get to the Farallon View School up there. The Naomi Patridge Trail is no kind of model for what we need to get around on the coast side. So another thing I was noticing on the design on that last graphic that was up there that I heartily approve of is no stop signs on these cross streets. The Naomi Patridge Trail is a loser as far as if you want to bicycle along it. And I've noticed a number of people who do bicycle on it pay no attention to the stop signs anyway. I thought that a yield sign or something like that might work to warn the trail user or something, but I prefer no signs at all and as much visibility approaching these cross streets that you're going to have to cross all the way up on this trail. So it's good to see that. A couple of comments. This should not be part of the California Coastal Trail. It's nowhere close to where the California Coastal
It
Trail is
isn't.
supposed to run. And, well, you did mention,
I think it's part of a network of the trails on the coast side.
yeah, that's a San Mateo County and other urban county invention for the California Coastal Trail that has nothing to do with California Coastal Trail as originally conceived, as mentioned in the original Prop 20, original Coastal Act, so forth and so on. And there are state guidelines that say the California Coastal Trail is supposed to go as close to the ocean as feasible. And so even the part across Murata Surf West here is in the wrong place. And a lot of people are still using anyway what should be the route of the California Coastal Trail there. The other thing about this that bothers me is, did you say 12-foot asphalt road?
8 foot,
Oh, 8 foot.
with 2 feet on either side.
Okay,
of
that
the
eliminates one of my,
granite shoulder.
that eliminates one of my problems. And that's about what I have to say.
Okay.
If I could just very briefly bounce back to the first topic, and I'm sorry I was late getting here tonight. A couple of things that aren't being considered with these, the development in Moss Beach so far is the lot across the street from this. Is what is being done with this multi-unit development also going to be subject to being done in the Dan's large vacant lot, which is even larger than this one. So that's one thing I wanted to bring up.
We kind of dealt with that before. It's different because it's a different zoning.
Yeah.
This is a unique zoning in this particular parcel.
Oh, okay. And the other thing was that I was happy to see in that letter the mention of the commercial aspect of this for the first floor. Mm-hmm. The reason I did not object to the mixed-use thing across the street on Highway 1 was the fact that the first floor was commercial. We who are trapped in our communities now on weekends and so forth would like to have services and local community-serving businesses, and that would get cars off the road. So I hate to see anything that would cut down on the commercial potential of these areas. There's very little zone for commercial anyway. Sorry to get off topic there.
Thank you. Okay, are we ready to move on to approving the letter? I think we are.
A question about the,
And there was one other item I just wanted to mention, maybe after your question. Or should I go first?
yeah, no, a question about the color of the decomposed granite. And
Yeah, go
and the
ahead.
texture, you know, is what we have at the Murata Surf West is, I think it was, you know, it's 3/4 inch, basically base rock. That, you know, the gophers do their thing, it comes up, it kind of works its way into the trail, and so now they're like marbles on the.
So you have a question you want Ellie to look at for the color of the gravel?
I can take a
And the
look at that
texture.
and report back.
Yeah.
I'd like to get back to the letter if we can.
And sorry, I don't want to beat this to death, but I want to make sure we get the right thing answered. Did you mean color or size of the decomposed granite?
I said both.
Color
Okay.
and
Color.
size.
I only caught one, that's
Yeah.
why I was asking.
Great,
Okay.
thank you for clarifying that. The last item that I just wanted to mention is that we've nearly completed an updated draft of the grant application, and so I'd if there's anybody on the MCC that would be willing to make some time to review the grant application, to ensure that we haven't missed anything, to be sure that we're making the best case possible, I would love for your input. and
Just send it
feedback.
out to our alias.
Okay,
I'll look at it, for sure.
great.
So, do I have a motion to approve the letter as written?
I will so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Hold on. Can we discuss it, please? Sure.
Yes.
Okay, so, you know, I cannot vote for wholeheartedly supporting this.
Okay.
With the issues that have been talked about, you know, apparently I was shut down, couldn't finish my concerns about the crossing. So you're gonna get a no vote for me,
Well,
based on this,
you-
based on the, you know, not being able to fully talk through the crossing as a speed bump and my concern, because there's gonna be a lot of these intersections, and guess what? The problems happen at the intersections, and we need to have it designed better, in my opinion, so that both the cars and the bikes can compete with a little bit more room and not to be funneled into tight spaces. That's when problems happen, in my
Sorry,
opinion.
I know I'm not the chair, but, so, we've heard you say this at 4 meetings now. I
No, you
thought-
have not.
Wait, sorry. As secretary, I'm saying what I think I'm hearing, and I'm about to ask for clarification. And I think I've heard the same thing 4 times. I think we have seen progressive addressing of your concerns. Can you say what you think has not yet been addressed fairly succinctly? I will capture it in the minutes.
The concern of making first of all, eliminating the speed bumps, and if we want to use, we've talked about using some of those little yellow bumps or whatever. Obviously, there's going to be a need to identify that to the drivers that this is a crossing. So there's obviously a need for that. But to go ahead and be locked on with a speed bump concept, which in my opinion, funnels, people will follow the path more and be forced to get close to the cars. I just think that it's problematic. I think that it should be wider. The speed bumps should be eliminated, and the crossing area at the road should be designed wider, so that when you do have the situation with a car parked and they're competing for line of sight, getting on the highway, and you've not only have one bicycle going in one direction, but you've got pedestrians and another, you just need more room for them to let the trail users decide easily where they need to get around the situation.
Okay. I'm sorry if you don't feel like you've been heard. My concern right now is that the topic that we're actually talking about is whether to support construction, not the details of the construction.
Well, I don't like to support the construction with the details. That's clear.
Yes, as Barbara says, we're trying to support a grant application for construction.
Right.
I'm happy to have them have money to work on this. It feels like this is certainly important, but not exactly the topic.
Yeah, well, I'm against approving money going to a bad design.
Okay.
Is that clear? Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, I think the question is still on the table about whether to approve the letter as written. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, 5-1. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the item that was pulled from the consent agenda, the update to the work priorities assignments, and I think you had an issue with that, Dan?
Yes. So, can you tell me what it's? Tell me what it's about. Can we talk about it?
At the retreat, we put together a list of who's assigned to which interest.
So that was
categories.
done. Why is this here now? There's some new additions that I
yes,
don't know
these
about?
are new additions. Yes, you're on them. Did you take a look at it?
No.
This is saying that you're our liaison to the ad hoc committee about the airport restaurant.
Are we approving the additions 6 months after the fact?
Yes, we're approving the additions. We approved the actual current version of them, I think about 4 months ago, after we initially approved them at the retreat, but they were updated at that point, and Len did that.
Okay.
But since we're trying to keep a reality between what we're actually doing and what's on the website, this is just an amendment to what's on the website, updating, like the fact that you're working with the 3.0 project. So if anybody wonders who's doing that, there's your name.
The work project list has always been a living document ever since we started them. And so this is reflecting changes.
So, you were not here at the last meeting.
No, that's true.
We brought up some concerns about how correspondences, who gets to look at the drawings, and so I prefer not to rush into this.
Okay, this is a totally separate topic.
These are all
no,
things
it's
we
not.
already discussed and agreed to. Like you being on the 3.0 cafe.
There's 3 items on this. One is Tamar being with Sea Level Rise. One is Barbara being a backup interviewer for CDRC, and the other is you being the 3.0 liaison. That's all we're talking about right now.
Okay, well, this is just the first time that I've been aware of this. This is on the
This is on the
website.
agenda. It's on the website.
Yeah, well, that's not on the agenda, just the agenda to approve that. So I'm just now looking at this for the very
This
first time.
document's on the website.
This is what you just pulled.
Right, and nobody, alerted me that it was on there. I'm sorry, I don't look at the website every day.
No, but the agenda was there.
It is expected that everybody look at the website before the meeting.
Okay.
Okay, so,
Well, if it's just this, then let's go ahead and just approve it.
okay, so you make a motion to approve it?
Move to approve the updates.
Okay,
That's it.
second?
Second.
All in favor? All opposed? 5, you abstained, Dan?
I approve.
Okay, 6-0. Okay. Well, my computer has completely lost the agenda now.
Next is
And
council activities.
reports of meetings that people have been to. Anybody?
I went to the wildlife meeting with the harbor districts. So they just discussed the sea-bin project, which is really interesting, where there's this like a floating bin that's supposed to filter out waste. And it's basically a pilot research project, so I'm hoping to learn a lot about it, but everyone's pretty excited about that. Then there was discussion of basically the infinite hazards that are presented to the wildlife in the harbor, the birds and mammals, and just in general. So a lot of different ideas coming up around that. There's going to be future discussions and meetings about how to, basically it's all the people in the boats and other people just kind of doing things that are dangerous to the animals out there. So learned a lot.
That was with the Harbor Commission?
Yeah.
Good, thank you. I went to a lot of meetings last week. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, so, council activity, correspondence received. I want to talk about, I think that there seems to be a problem because our MCC received some blueprints.
Dan,
and all of a sudden
we're talking about meetings that we've
disappeared.
been.
No, we're talking about correspondence received. Read the agenda.
Well, did you receive the correspondence you wanted to
I'm
tell us
talking about correspondence that I would like to
Dan,
see.
you're violating the Brown Act now.
I would
This is a
like to
new
see.
item.
I would like to see, and apparently
If you'd
it's
like to
been
make an
destroyed,
agenda
maybe.
item.
As I said at the last meeting, bring an agenda item and we'll put it on the agenda.
Right now, I'm just talking about correspondence that I would like to see. We're talking
Right,
about
but
correspondence.
this is not on the agenda.
Correspondence.
No,
Not a-
no, that's not what this item is. This is correspondence that
Received.
you, as a council member, has received.
I think we can talk about this.
No, we can't.
It's a violation
It's
of the
out
Brown
of,
Act.
out of order.
I disagree.
It's not an agenda item. We can't discuss it.
We can,
You can put it on the
I feel
agenda.
like this council, two people in this room are shutting this down. I just,
There's a
really-
reason the Brown Act exists. That this was not on the agenda. The public doesn't know we're talking about it. We can't talk about it.
It's just talking about locating some correspondence. That's all. Nothing more than that.
It's not a report on
It's not
correspondence.
talking about the correspondence, just
But that's what we're
locating.
supposed to be doing, is talking about the correspondence that we have received.
Well, where is it?
And
How can I
reporting
talk
back.
about it if I haven't seen it?
That's right. So, did you, had you gone to a meeting, Barbara, that you were waving at? No, okay.
I wasn't waving.
Okay. There was a presentation of a plaque for Lenny Roberts, who you know is an esteemed environmentalist, at the Devil's Slide Trail last Friday, attended by many, many local dignitaries, and it was an honor well-deserved. There was also a meeting with the Committee for Green Foothills about the fact that there's a monarch overwintering space right next to the Dunes project, and so they were bringing that to light. Let's see, on the 17th, there was a presentation at the library by a group called Solutions for Carbon Neutral Society, which didn't really bring up too much way of new information for me. And I think that's basically what I wanted to say. Ideas for agenda items for the future? We have a few. We have some topics around compost. We have some citizens park advisory people who would like to talk with us. Anybody have other ideas?
Yeah, I think we need to talk about how correspondence is received and how it's handled.
I think, okay.
Treasurer's report.
Treasurer's report, okay.
I'd like to get back to the thing we talked about earlier in the year, which would be the logo, new logo. So I'll put together some documentation on that, and we'll try to have that at a future meeting.
Yes, that would be good. Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?